So far in this series, I've seen trout caught and had great fun catching one myself.
Don't wind up too much. Oh, well done.
How exciting! I've watched Theo catch calamari and cook it to perfection. I've had gars for breakfast, flathead and chips and a ride in a beautiful old Porsche. Watched Patrick bash an abalone with a saucepan to make it tender and eaten crayfish that tasted divine. I wonder what Theo has in store for me today. He just laughed when I asked him and said it would be a day like no other. What on earth could it be?
Well, Theo, you've brought me here to Lyweenie in Tasmania, and we're going trout stripping. So, what is it?
Well, for a start, the weather's been turned on for you, Robbie. I mean, if you had been here when we were here last week, it was absolutely freezing cold and it was snowing. But what it is, great family event. What they do is they trap the trout coming up the stream. They then collect them and they strip them of their eggs, and they fertilise them artificially. So then what they can do is once they get the little fingerlings, which are tiny little fish, is restock all the lakes and the rivers around Tasmania that don't have natural breeding by themselves. So great little program, great family day, and the weather's been turned on as we said. I can't wait to go check it out.
Let's do it.
Do it. Okay.
That's a Great Lake brown trout, probably about 3 pounds, kilo and a half, somewhere around there. That's the female there. You can tell by the smaller head that she hasn't got a hook on her jaw and quite a fat belly on her. If we just turn her over, you can sort of see that belly running up through there. So there's your male trout, male brown trout, about the same size, about a kilo and a half, 3 pounds. You can see on his head there he's got quite a pronounced hook on his jaw, and underneath you're seeing a black line, and he's not quite as fat around his belly as the females are. You can also see there's a bit of fin damage here from him coming up the creek. That'll clear up within a month or so of him being back out.
Adam, trout stripping up at Lyweenie, why do you do it?
We strip the brown trout of their eggs because not all lakes have natural recruitment. They're not all like Great Lakes, so we'll take some eggs out and grow them on down to their hatchery down at New Norfolk, and then take them out to places that don't have natural recruitment.
Now, why do some lakes have natural recruitment and others don't?
Just the dynamics of the lakes. I think some of them don't have inflowing creeks, which the fish will need. So just dynamics such as inflowing creeks are a major part of it.
So my understanding is that trout need fast-running water, a creek with lots of bedrock on it to make their way up, and create a bit of a nest. I've seen it all with salmon on TV.
Yep.
Are trout similar to that?
Yep, they are very similar. Some will shore spawn, so if there isn't a creek coming in, they will try and spawn on the edge of lakes, but generally the percentage of survival is very low with those instances.
It was a great weekend for the families, Adam. Bringing kids, you guys have put on a real good show, but we don't obviously expect you to strip all the trout Saturday and Sunday, especially with families peering over your shoulder. Exactly how long does this program take for you guys to get together and get on top of it?
Yeah, from what we get today, and then we'll probably have 3 or 4 more goes at it. We do. We also use some triploiding techniques, so to get some good growth rates on some fish. But generally, probably worth 4 or 5 days of stripping all up to get somewhere around 1 million eggs, using somewhere around 5,000.
5,000 fish?
Yeah.
That's a lot of fish. Do you get volunteers in? Like, do you have to be trained in the art of obviously stripping fish?
Not really. It's something you just pick up. When I first started, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but obviously all the other guys have been doing it a lot longer than me, so they give you a helping hand. You pick it up pretty quick, so we do it with all our staff that we've got, just because we know, that we can get good results from it.
Well, it's a world-class fishery, Adam, and you guys ought to be congratulated. You guys put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're pretty lucky. We've got the environment. We want to continue to protect it and enhance it as much as we can, and encourage people to get out there and get a licence and go fishing. It's a good way to spend your weekend.
What's behind getting a licence in Tasmania, and is that where you guys get all your funding from in order to support this event?
Yeah, a lot of the funding comes from licensing, and all the money that we get from licensing goes back into the fishery. So there's various options with your licences, from 2-day licence through to your annual licence. And it's important that people do get licences when they come over, and there's plenty of places where they can get them. If they come over on the Spirit, they can get them there, or tackle shops, hardware stores, local stores in the Highlands, service TAS outlets, all those sort of places sell licences. So it's very important. We have somewhere around 25,000 licences sold a year, and all that money goes back into the fisheries.
And how important is it to obey by the rules that Fisheries Tasmania enforce at obviously airports and at the Spirit of Tasmania, just not have any tests or diseases come in from other parts of the mainland?
Yeah, it's absolutely important. We obviously, with the carp coming into Tasmania, they've come in from a source from the mainland, so you see the damage they've done. So big fines, fines sort of up to $10,000 to $12,000, and they can be multiplied depending on number of offences. So big fines, and something that certainly we try and stay on top of as much as we can. So.
Fantastic. So the message is, come to Tasmania, enjoy what you have to offer, but do not bring anything in from the mainland. Make sure you adhere to all the laws and regulations that are about, and get a licence, because that explains everything on there that people need to know.
Absolutely. And clean. I mean, if any gear's coming in from the mainland, clean the gear. Obviously, we've got a problem with Didymo. We haven't got Didymo in Tasmania, but we're trying to stay on top of it.
That's that sludgy stuff.
Yeah, rock knot. So that's in New Zealand. So we're trying to get the check, clean, dry message out there as much as we can.
Naturally, trout, how long do they take before they come into maturity? How many eggs they normally lay, like per fish?
Yeah, mature fish will generally be about 3 to 4 years old. The fish in the trap here will be about that. And you're looking at, say, somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 eggs per kilo. So you're probably getting 3,000 eggs, something like that.
And I saw that those fish you pulled out with a net before, and that's about the average size. There's a couple of good fish that we caught the other week, actually, in this great lake that's open to all the tourists, so we can come and have a fish even during closing season. And they're what, 1.5 kilos, would you say?
Yeah, 1.5 kilos is a good average. 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds is your average from Great Lake. They're beautiful fish. We've got rainbows in here as well.
They're a lovely fish, mate. I mean, we caught a couple. They're a good fighting fish. They're a little bit hard to nail, but they're a lot of good fun, and I could see why. They're just a fantastic place to come. Just the environment, it's just a pleasure to be here, mate.
It is, yeah, good spot.
And I appreciate it. Thank you for having us here,
sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
One, you see she's actually probably already tried spawning. She's got a lot of gravel rashes on her, so forth, and where the boys have already been bashing against her, trying to knock the eggs out of her.
Now, Chris, we're looking at trout today, but there's another thing that's caught my eye, and that's carp. Now, we all know how destructive they are. Can you tell us a little bit about it? You've got a great program in place to eradicate them. Tell us how important it is to get rid of them, and how are you successful?
Well, I guess a bit of background probably wouldn't be a bad place to start.
Always good background, yeah.
We first found carp here in Tasmania back in 1995. So our program's been long running, 15 years now, trying to eradicate these pests, and it just sort of shows you how hard an introduced species, when it comes into a waterway like we've got down at Lake Thurl and Lake Crescent, how hard it is to eradicate them.
Okay, now we know that they were introduced into on the mainland. I mean, how did they get here?
Oh, well, it's sort of unsure. No doubt they've been brought in by someone. I mean, these things don't fly over with birds or, you know, any of those sort of means. So someone's brought them in, whether it was for a bait to catch some of the large trout down there, or whether they introduced them as a species they wanted to catch themselves. So we're not really sure, and no one's really put their hand up, and I don't think they will. So.
No, I don't think so. I mean, as a fisherman, I know they're a very hardy fish, aren't they? Are they? The perception is, are they a goldfish?
Very closely related. Not a goldfish, but closely related, and very tough and very hard, as you say. They're like most pest species. They can sort of thrive in any sort of environment, particularly in degraded environments. They really take over then.
Because I've caught them before, left them out of the water, and hours later they're still breathing. Well, they're trying to anyway.
24 hours later they'll recover. They're tough. Phenomenal.
Now, what about redfin perch? Are they a pest?
Redfin perch are considered a pest here in Tasmania. Not as sort of serious for us as carp, but certainly they have effects on our trout fishery.
Okay.
So any other species that can sort of breed fast and eat into the food cycle of the trout is certainly going to affect them. So redfin do that. And they have a big breeding potential as well.
What is it about carp that they are so destructive?
The main thing they do is they can breed in big numbers.
Right.
You know, a 2 to 3 kilo carp can lay over 1 million eggs.
Wow.
So you can see the potential there. In one sort of spawning season, if you've got a number of females that are ready to spawn, and potentially thousands as they start to breed up, they can have a big breeding effect. So then they just change the biomass in the lake. Initially they're a bottom feeder, so they go along eating all the invertebrates on the bottom.
Wipe that out.
Start taking that out. So they're starting to affect the food chain from the bottom up. Then they start getting really destructive. When the numbers get really big and the biomass totally takes control, they start getting into all the nice aquatic vegetation. They start pulling that up, and then they start to degrade the water systems by really stirring the bottom. We haven't seen that in Lake Crescent and Sorrel. The numbers have never been big enough to see that because we've been able to control them and keep the numbers down. But eradicating them is the issue, isn't it?
Is another thing. Well, in Europe, I mean, what keeps them under wraps? What keeps them controlled? Do they have a natural predator?
Well, they have local conditions, and what you find is a species in its own natural environment has its own controls, and it can be a whole range of things. So, you know, in Europe, they said, natural environment, they exist there and they do fine. They breed in big numbers in the right conditions over there as well. You know.
Now, the key question: are you winning?
It's been a long battle. It's been a very interesting story, and these are big lakes. I mean, Lake Thurl is 54 square kilometres, so it's not a small puddle. Lake Crescent's about 22 square kilometres, so we're looking at two quite big lakes. The thing that's in our favour is they're at the top of the catchment, so at the top of the river. We've been able to contain them, which was the most important thing. We've been able to contain them to those two lakes. In the last 15 years, we've got to hold them in there. They haven't been able to move out and move downstream and disperse into the Derwent system, which is a big river system. If they got into that, they were in trouble.
Right.
In Lake Crescent, over the last 15 years, we've taken out over 8,000 carp. We've been able to control the numbers during that time, so there's never ever been a really big dominant biomass, but they've been there to the point now we haven't caught a carp out of Lake Crescent for the last 2 years, and we believe that we've probably eradicated them out of there.
Fantastic.
Lake Sorrel was a little bit different story. Lake Sorrel is above Lake Crescent, and that's the big one. It has lots and lots of aquatic marshland that's ideal for carp spawning.
They just spread out into there, and
in the springtime as the lake floods up into the marshes, the water's warming, all the right stimulants for the carp, they try and push into the wetlands and spawn. And that's the key. We've been able to target them in those wetlands. As they try and push in, we put big traps in place. We have radio tracker carp that take us to where they are, and we've been able to control the numbers to low levels. Had the numbers down to what we believe are less than 50 carp going into last spring. So in both lakes, in Tasmania, there's only 50 carp left, and we're awfully close. Right? We caught 37.
Okay.
Right? To 37 of those fish, 34 of them were females, and 2 or 3 of them spawned.
Oh no. So you're talking 1 million eggs per fish?
Potentially, you know, but the thing is, even that we've been able to limit it. We've been able to limit it to probably about 20,000 fish that have been recruited into Lake Crescent. We've already caught 16,000 of them. Our methods are very, very effective at fishing them out early on in the piece. The key now is to take those other ones out before they mature, and the females take 5 years to mature. Right? So we've got a 5-year window where we're going to take them out and stop any further recruitment.
Right.
So it's a really we're right on the knife edge all the time. We're trying to win this game.
If I go out fishing in some of your fantastic lake systems and I catch one, what should I be doing with it?
Well, we want you to keep it, and we want you to give us a call straight away. In your angling code you get with your licence, there are numbers in there. Ring the carp number and tell us where it is and keep it for us, and we'll come and collect it.
Well, Chris, some fantastic initiatives. You guys ought to be congratulated, mate. Thank you for coming on our show. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, sir.
Hello, Peter Cleland from Bar Crusher Boats. Those of you that have been watching Rivertoreef over the past few years will have been watching the Bar Crusher 620C catch some fantastic fish as it's travelled all around Australia. Well, today we're going to show you another model in the Bar Crusher range, the later 620, which is a 620 hardtop. Fantastic package for coastal and offshore fishing. Got quite a few differences from the 620C you've been watching, so today I'm going to run you through some of those differences, tell you all about it. Before I get into the differences between the 620C and the new 620 HT, what I'll do is I'll run through some of the standard Bar Crusher features that you'll see in most of the boats in the Bar Crusher range, including the quick flow water ballast system, the Rigideck rigid subfloor and tread plate floor, and also the wave slicer smooth hull that cuts beautifully through wind chop. So I'll tell you a little bit about some of those things. If you look around the back of a Bar Crusher under the engine pod, you'll notice an opening there. That's where the water flows in and out for the quick flow water ballast system. When you stop and pull up, water gurgles into that hole, breathes through the anchor well, reduces the buoyancy of the hull and drops the boat down by a few inches to get the chines into the water and give it greater stability. When you put the throttle down and move forward, the boat flies up onto the plane, the water drains quickly and you're gone. Fantastic thing for stability, allows us to build more V into the hull. So when you're out there on those windy days where the chop comes up, the hull's got plenty of V and will chop through it beautifully. If you look underneath the Bar Crusher, you'll see our hulls are beautifully smooth. There's no lifting strakes. What this means is, with very little chine, not too much flatted area, the boat runs plenty of V and will land nicely and cut beautifully through chop. It's what we call our wave slicer hull design. Works really well when the wind comes up. If we hop in the boat, I'll explain to you what we call our Rigideck subfloor system. The subfloor of a Bar Crusher boat is a very stiff, strong design, and if you're going to build a good aluminium boat that won't fatigue, crack or break over time, what you need to do is you need a super rigid, stiff subfloor. We reckon we've got one of the best in the business. Many of you, having watched Rivertoreef for a couple of years, will be quite familiar with a lot of the typical Bar Crusher features, but I'll run through them again just as a refresher. We've got the live bait tank plumbed in the transom of most boats. We've got the removable bait board. You can also replace the plastic. That has a drain that drains down into the burley bucket. We have a folding rear seat, a slide that goes into the step through there to close the step through off. We have the dual battery system in here and the battery isolation switches to run one battery both, or turn them off and isolate them all together. We have a deck wash system which is available as an option. Clear bowl fuel filter under the side deck. Now we've had a bit of a refresher of many of the typical features in a Bar Crusher boat. Now we'll have a look at some of the differences between the new 620 HT model and the 620C, which you're familiar with. The most obvious difference between the new 620 HT and the 620C is that the 620C, of course, comes with a folding windscreen. It's a cuddy cabin configuration, and it has the gas strut folding roof, which pivots down onto the windscreen and also folds for low storage. The difference with the 620 HT is it's a fixed top boat, so it's a fixed roof boat, has full height glass. It has a longer cab, so the cab comes back a little bit further. What it effectively does is, because the cabin runs down the sides of the boat a little bit further, it gives you a little bit more protection in rough weather. So people who want to fish in rougher conditions love the hardtop configuration. If we look at the helm area in the 620 HT, the first thing that hits you is that it's a much larger helm. This is great because it allows you to put larger or more electronics in the dash here. On the cuddy cabin boat, you haven't quite got the same space. Of course, it's got the hydraulic steering standard in this boat. This one's got the winch in the anchor well. It's designed to take it. Your switch panel down here, your key over here, some DC power outlets should you want to charge your phone or plug in a spotlight or an appliance. Compass up there. The dash layout is very easy to use. The control falls readily to hand. The seating position is central. Good vision out of the boat. Works very, very well. Another thing we love to do in our boats is have plenty of handholds. When you're rocking around out there in rough weather, it's great to be able to grab on. Plenty of handholds all around the boat, all quite strong and secure. The 620 HT allows 2 to 3 people to sleep comfortably in the V-berth. We can provide as an option infill cushions which fill in between the bunks, and also bunk extensions which are cushions that have little fold down legs that give you a full 2100 bunk. So if there's 2 or 3 of you that want to overnight either on the water or on the road, fantastic accommodation there. Something else we can do is we've started building boats with lockable cabins, so that people that want to stop perhaps on their way home from a fishing trip, go in and have a counter meal at the pub, you can lock the door and your fishing gear is quite secure. One thing you'll immediately notice when you look at the roof of the hardtop here is we have a different rocket launcher design. You can store 10 big game rods up there, whereas on the 620 Cuddy, with a smaller roof, you're going to get fewer rods on your roof.
Mates go out fishing one day, and unfortunately one guy goes overboard and hits his head on the way down. How do you get him back in the boat?
That's one scenario for a person falling overboard where they're incapacitated. The rules remain the same in keeping a proper lookout and not taking your eye off them, pushing the man overboard button on the GPS. You could rig a line over the side and power buckle them. All plotters and GPSs that are used on the water will have some sort of man overboard button or an event button that you push. Usually it's one or a combination of buttons, and hold down, and it marks the position where the person's gone in the water and gives you a course to get back to them. Get to know how that works on the particular machine that you've got and practice using it. If you're on your own, it might be the only way in a bit of a slop or in heavy weather or at night that you'll find the person back in the water. Pete's fallen overboard. I've got the man overboard button pushed. I'm keeping him in sight. Just a nice gentle turn. As I get 2/3 of the way around the turn, ease the power right back. It's nice and calm today, so we can head up towards him fairly closely. You only get one chance at this in rough weather. As you're slowing down and you're approaching, have a think about how you're going to get them back on board. Pete looks pretty good here. He's waving for help. He's going to be okay to come up the ladder. If he was unconscious or hit his head or something along the way, you might want to think about putting a rope over the side and power buckling him up over the side of the boat. As you get close, I'm going to swing the boat and power off. You can see how the stern of the boat moves around into him. I can bring him up. How are you going?
No problem.
Okay, we'll get you around the ladder. There you go. You all right to go? Good man.
So if that took a little bit of time, why didn't you just back up to him?
A couple of reasons. First of all, propeller injury. You don't want a moving propeller anywhere near a person in the water. Secondly, I brought the boat up into just that little bit of breeze that we had, so that makes the boat go a little bit slower and it's safer. And I also had a clear view of Peter in the water the whole time. And it also allowed me at the very end to turn the engine to one side to push the stern towards him, so we knew we were going to collect him, and turn the engine off at the same time.
Now, if you've got more than one person on the boat with you, it's a really good idea to have a watcher as well.
Yeah, it is. If someone falls over, the lookout would point to them and keep them in sight all the time, telling the skipper where they are. It's good for families to practice this, or for groups of guys who are going out to practice it and have a bit of a plan as to what they're going to do. The same for people going on their own, and the same for a couple of mates going out, 2 of you.
Now, in rough weather as well, we didn't do it this time, but could have we thrown Pete a life buoy or something like that?
Sure. If they're not wearing flotation, or you want to mark the position, throw out a PFD or a life buoy if you have one on board. And also, to get them alongside the boat in rough weather, it may not be possible to get the boat right along next to them. So, get a line ready, throw the line out to them, and then pull them in by the line. When tying up your boat, take the loop, put it over the cleat and double it up. That way it can't slip off. Then come back onto the dock, one loop around, a couple of half hitches and tie it off. You can see I've used a bowline knot here to make a loop in the rope. It's handy to know about knots and what they're used for. Makes boating easier. If you come across a cleat where someone else is tied up, you can use a technique called dipping the eye. It means you can put your line on and both of you can let go without disturbing the other's line. There are two easy ways of dipping the eye. One comes up underneath the first loop and goes over, or you can put it through the hole in the middle of the cleat and roll it over the cleat either side.
It's seldom easy to find accommodation for a car and boat near major cities, but fortunately there's another Big 4 holiday park right next to Hobart Airport. It's brand new and everything, and being so close to the airport, it's the perfect location if you have visitors flying in to meet you. And for us, it's the perfect location to reach Eagle Hawk Neck. Now, I've heard a lot about it from Theo, as it is supposed to be one of Australia's top tuna destinations. So this is the famous spot. I have to say that the weather doesn't look so good. It looks pretty bleak out there. Theo just met some guys in a much bigger boat than ours who've just come back and said, forget it. They couldn't even get a rod in the water. Have a look at it. This is a bit better at least. It's sloppy, but at least it's only residual swell that's coming into the bay. This area is protected from the 40-knot winds from the east that have been blowing all week. We launched near Port Arthur, as this area is supposed to be good for tuna. And there are a lot of boats out here. I wonder if they're having any luck, because we certainly aren't.
Well, you can't say you've gone for a fish around Tasmania without actually coming down to Eagle Hawk Neck. We're having a go for tuna. We're just on the west side of Tasman Island. Bit rough over on the other side, but we're going to give it a good crack here. There's boats everywhere, there's seals everywhere as well. We're still waiting for a hookup. That hasn't happened yet, but patience is a virtue, so we'll see how we go.
Theo, I'm starting to feel a bit seasick. You take over the driving. Day 2 and we're back in the same spot. It was still too rough to go out off Eagle Hawk Neck, and it is definitely not comfortable here. We've been trolling for hours, but still no luck. But we did talk to some of the others yesterday, and they all said the same thing. Every time they managed to hook up, the seals would pounce on the tuna, and they'd be left with just bits. They sure do train the seals well around here. Look at this. Those red blobs are the bait fish all swimming together. And that means tuna. Unfortunately, it also seems to mean seals as well. At least we've got to see Port Arthur from a very different perspective. Well, we've lucked out on the tuna, but we're definitely not alone there. The stories have all been dismal, and there are a lot of very disappointed fishermen. But stick around, because after the break we have another cooking treat in store for you. Can't wait to get back on solid ground.
Tonight we've got something really special to show you. The Bar Crusher 560C Apache Special Edition. Bar Crusher's been building boats for 10 years now, and to celebrate our 10th year, we've rolled out a 560C with some changes and upgrades that make it a really special and unique looking boat. So we'd like to run you through that to show you what it's all about. First thing you'll notice when you have a look at the new Bar Crusher 560 Special Edition is the colour scheme. Sexy colour scheme, black sides, grey on the cabin and in the cockpit, really stands out. Very unique looking boat. The special graphics, no one will miss you on the water in this. The Special Edition model's based on the 560 hull, which of course has our well-known features, the wave slicer hull design, the strokeless hull design, which is great for running through wind shocks. It has the quick flow water ballast system where the water flows into the hull, reduces the buoyancy and drops the boat down for stability. And of course it also has our trademark rigid deck subfloor system, which makes it one of the strongest subfloor systems in the business. Many of the typical Bar Crusher features come in this boat. Dual battery system with battery isolation switches here, your folding rear seat. You've got your removable bait board, you can replace the plastic, has a drain into your burley pot, works really well. You can also pull that out and replace the bait board with a ski pole straight in the same hole for those days when the fish aren't biting. Live bait tank plumbed in the transom here, nicely hidden away but easy to access. Over the other side of the boat we've got your clear bowl fuel filter. Of course we've got our normal cast aluminium rod holders, very strong, no plastic or stainless in our boats. Of course we use the Hella LED lighting in the boats, great quality product, lasts virtually forever, terrific, very happy with it. You see here the Bar Crusher registered design trim tabs, electro tab, anodised aluminium plate, work very, very well. Help trim your boat in those windy conditions where you've got a beam on wind, just bring you up straight, give you the best ride through rough water. We have a look at the fuel system here, aluminium baffled tank, no hoses or hose clamps under the floor in a Bar Crusher, everything above the floor. The beauty of this system is if a hose ever perishes or a hose clamp comes loose, in most boats they can create a fuel spill under